All right, everybody, thanks for joining in. This episode, we are taking a trip back to the early 80s, and I think this one might actually have been the first of the what I would call the family-friendly horror movies that seemed to kind of mainstream commodity back in the early 80s, but we are talking about 1982's Poltergeist.
One of my absolute favorite movies, by the way. I remember this was one of those films that I don't know if you remember, but when we first got cable, Poltergeist was one of those films that was on non-stop, similar to like The Beastmaster or Psycho 2. That was another one that was always on. Yeah, these were the films that were constantly on, like back all the time. Like anytime you turn on your cable, it was like, here we go. It's time for Poltergeist. Oh, and Jaws 3, that was another big one. Jaws 3 in 3D. That was a huge like HBO movie that was constantly on as well.
Oh, yeah, it's so crazy too with a lot of these movies from back in those days that kind of fall in the same line with Poltergeist. And I think for me personally, when I think of like this era of horror movies that weren't rated R, it's not like they do now when they come out with a horror movie, but they want to get the PG-13 rating. So they cut out all of the blood and then they just make every other scene some sort of jump scare, back in the early 80s, especially back when like this came out. Because I think even if this came out today, I don't think it would get an R rating, but it would definitely get a PG-13 rating. And
I think so. Oh, absolutely. With that, especially with the scene with the peeling off his face.
Yeah, and then you have like the pool with all the bodies floating around.
Right. Oh, yeah.
But, you had Poltergeist, you had Gremlins, you had Ghostbusters, and then there was other ones sprinkled in there too. And it kind of went throughout almost throughout the whole decade of the 80s. I mean, you had even movies like Beetlejuice, which kind of fall into like sort of, I mean, they're not quite on the same level as I would actually almost put Poltergeist and Ghostbusters in the same category. I mean, they had sort of similar effects in certain things. Yeah, I can kind of
see that. I mean, Ghostbusters was a little bit more towards the comedy aspect of.
Yeah, but it still was like, it still was that whole like this movie's rated PG. It's fun for the whole family, but yet if you took like a young kid to see Poltergeist or Ghostbusters, I mean, I tried to show Ghostbusters once to like an 8-year-old and it freaked her out. So, but I don't think it was in this weird era before PG-13 was a thing, but yet it wasn't quite enough to deserve an R rating at the time. So, I mean, this is a good example of, if you go back to the, early 80s where the ratings board actually did a good thing and said, oh, you know what? Maybe we do need a rating between PG and R that says, you know what?
I think
even if you're a little kid with your parents, you probably shouldn't watch this.
I think it was, wasn't it Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom that got that PG-13 ball rolling?
Yeah, and if I remember right, like it didn't actually get the PG-13 rating, but they were like, oh, you know what? Yeah, we probably should do this in the future, if I remember right. But I think that's the movie that's kind of like, oh, hey, we should probably do something about this. But when you have movies like this, though, I'm surprised it didn't come sooner. Which, I mean, when was that? That was like, what, 84, 85?
Which one?
Indiana Jones.
No, it was definitely before 85. I think it was 80. Wasn't it 83? Because like the first one was
I don't remember.
Yeah. Well, anyhow, yeah. So I knew that one kicked. Yeah, because that one kicked in, and that was like that was the big change because of that heart scene, which is kind of funny because like we reviewed the Rambo film, and pretty much the same thing happens in the last Rambo movie. It's just, but that's obviously a hard R, whereas Indiana Jones got the PG-13.
Right. Well, and there was a lot more violence in this last Rambo movie than there was in the Indiana Jones movie.
That is true.
I mean, there was more than the one scene.
Oh yeah.
Although that would be great. Could you imagine like you had a movie like, well, I mean, like like Indiana Jones, like came out now, where it was like, say like you had, oh man, I was almost gonna say like The Mummy, like with Brendan Fraser, but that movie's like 20 years old now.
Yeah, no kidding.
Let's say like, okay, so like the Jumanji movies that like are huge right now with Dwayne The Rock Johnson and what's his name, Kevin Hart or whatever, the little comedian guy.
Right.
So let's say like you're watching like one of those movies, like your kids and stuff, and then it's like, oh hey, this is a fun movie, and it gets to the end of the movie, and The Rock like punches Kevin Hart in the chest and like rips his heart out. You'd be like, what the fuck was that?
Right, too funny.
Oh man. Oh, so even though we're a little bit into this movie, the one thing I did want to talk about, and I think for those of you that are listening to this type of podcast, you're obviously a horror fan. I mean, I can't imagine why you would be listening to something called Horror Heads if you weren't a horror fan. Sorry, the show is not about Disney princesses or anything. But one of the things that this movie is, I almost want to say notorious for, but that's probably not the right wording for it, but this movie is, and I'm using air quotes here, a Tobe Hooper movie.
Sort of.
Yeah, and I am sorry, but unless, there's a couple of scenes where you're watching this, and usually, and it's more like the aerial shots, and then there's like one shot where the guy like spills his beer on the sidewalk, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe that's a Tobe Hooper scene there. But otherwise, this is straight up a Steven Spielberg movie. It's got Steven Spielberg written all over the credits.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's got Steven Spielberg written all over every damn scene.
And that's one of the things, too, about this film. It's one of the controversies is, Tobe Hooper was hired to do this film, and Spielberg was originally going to do it, I believe, but he was caught up with E.T. at the time. So there was this sort of, he couldn't be on the set, and there was some sort of rule with like the guild for Directors Guild or the Writers Guild or whatever, where they didn't let you do two movies simultaneously or whatever. So he kind of, like the big thing is, like the controversy is basically like it was actually Spielberg doing the film, and then Tobe Hooper had very little to do with this. But then, I've heard some other things too, where some people on the set say, no, it really was Tobe Hooper's film, and Spielberg was just there as kind of like a consultant or something. But yeah, I guess we'll never really fully 100% know the truth.
I can tell you watch Jaws and you watch this and tell me it's not directed by the same person.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah, I absolutely hear you with that.
Yeah, and I had heard, some different things about it as well. The one thing that I did hear about this in particular was Steven Spielberg's original idea for this movie was it was supposed to be kind of a tie-in to Close Encounters, but supposedly Tobe Hooper was the one who came up with the idea of, instead of us having it be like an alien type story, let's have it be a ghost story. And then supposedly Tobe Hooper and Steven Spielberg then kind of reworked his idea and then made it into what we know as Poltergeist.
Gotcha.
But I don't know if that's true or not. Who knows? I mean, I guess Steven Spielberg is still alive. So we could probably call him, I guess. I mean,
give him a call. Yeah. Let's find out what he has to say.
I'll just text him real quick. And
there you go. Oh, also another thing I want to mention about this film. I'm curious if you noticed this or not, but this is one of those films for geeks like me are very, very, this is a total, geek film for a specific reason. Do you know what I'm going to say?
I don't know.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
This is one of a very few films. There's a few out there. Another one is E.T. Strangely enough, is a Spielberg film, but and I think I actually, believe it or not, Silent Night, Deadly Night is one of these films too. But this is one of the only films that actually has the original vintage Kenner Star Wars action figure.
Oh, you know what? Okay, so you jumped to one of the things I wanted to talk about. So, I mean, I know you've seen this a billion times, but when you see this movie now, and they have the scene where Carrie Ann is laying in the bed, and she has the vintage Luke Skywalker action figure in her mouth.
Oh, yeah.
Are you like, son of a bitch, get that out of your damn mouth?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's like, oh, my gosh, you know how much that thing costs now? It's like $120, $150 figure you got sticking in your mouth right there. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was another thing with this particular movie that I noticed. Not only that you had like the Luke Skywalker action figure like hanging out of Carrie Ann's mouth, but there was a couple of other, I mean, back in the early 80s, they didn't refer to them as Easter eggs, but you had a bunch of other Star Wars Easter eggs in this, which, I mean, I can't imagine that Tobe Hooper was definitely like, or, you know, during the film, it was like, oh, we have to have the Vader action figure carrying case like in 4 shots in the movie, and we got to get this Chewbacca patch in a couple of shots in the movie, and this and that. Because, I mean, that's one of the things with E.T., you know, that is when you had the kid dressed up as Yoda, you know, That's always one of the big things. Like, everybody's like, oh, that's Spielberg paying homage to George Lucas there.
There's also a scene where he shows E.T. his Star Wars figures.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Yeah, so I will say Poltergeist is one of my, again, I said this before, but it is one of my favorite horror movies. I think it's a very well done film. It's one of those, you know, one of those ghost films that I think they really get it right, because they just, you know, it's creepy, it's scary, but it's also got this really kind of dramatic, heart felt moments with this family, and they get the whole, like, you know, early 80s suburban family just spot on, I thought.
The other thing, because I was kind of thinking that too, and this was probably, I mean, you could probably relate with this a little bit as well, but one of the things that they had mentioned in this particular movie is, I don't remember how it came up, but somebody had asked, like, the age of the mom or something, and he was like, oh, she's 32. And the kids, you know, are like teenagers, and you have these parents like in their like young 30s, but the way that the parents act sometimes, you know, they're kind of acting like they're like in their 50s compared to their 30s. But it's just like, I don't know, it's weird, like when you think back to the like, and I was thinking of like my parents back in like the 80s and stuff. I'm like, oh, you know what? My parents did seem like they were really old when they were only like 30.
Right.
And then I think of myself and I'm like, I think I'm like hip and trendy and cool and stuff.
Yeah, it was a different time, I think.
Oh. And then, you know, you had the scene. The only thing, here's one thing with the parents that kind of always bugs me every time I see this movie, especially as I got older, is you have the parents in their bed, like
smoking pot,
rolling joints and stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's cool and stuff. And, you know, I've gotten high when I've been older and stuff. And, you know, it's not the same when you're 40 as when you're 16. But the kid walks into the room and he's just like, oh, hey, everybody, how's it going? I'm sorry, but little kids would be like, oh, was there a skunk in here?
Right.
Because your parents never smoked, though, did they?
No, not cigarettes or pot, as far as I know.
Yeah, see, my mom used to smoke. I mean, she still does, but... So maybe I wouldn't smell pot in the house, but...
She smokes cigarettes or pot?
Oh, she smokes cigarettes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, it's kind of weird because, I mean, you know, we're in 2020 now, and my mom had made a comment, not the last time I was hanging out with her, a couple of, like, one of the last few times I was hanging out with her about pot, and I was just like, it's not 1970 anymore, and you're not some 70-year-old, like, you know, whatever. Quit watching your Reefer Madness over there, lady.
All right. Too funny.
But anyway, yeah, the whole Star Wars thing was one of the things I definitely wanted to talk about. So the other thing I was going to ask you about this, I mean, it's not really about this particular movie, but do you remember when we were like in grade school? I guess it was. Although I don't, what? Were we in, maybe we were in like 7th grade or 6th grade? Maybe we were in 6th grade. But anyway, when the actress that played Carrie Ann, Heather O'Rourke, do you remember when she died?
Yes, I do. I remember being very disturbed by that because, you know, she was this little girl that I grew up watching on TV, and I remember hearing about her passing, and it was just like, oh, that's crazy. I mean, because I think she was like our age or close to.
She was. And this is like a Mandela effect kind of a thing too. But I know that they had filmed at least part of Poltergeist 3 in Chicago. And I had always thought that when she had died, it actually happened in Chicago. That's what I had always assumed. Or, I mean, I always thought that. And then when I watched Poltergeist the most recent time, I was like, oh man, I remember when she died, and like it was like a huge deal. And again, it was like one of these weird things where like I just thought stuff had happened that never happened. Because I know that like even with the original Poltergeist, there's like a bunch of like these weird like, you know, conspiracy things that had happened after the fact, and a couple of people had died and stuff. And
right. And yeah, there's a whole bunch of crazy stuff with that film.
And but yeah, I remember when Heather O'Rourke died, I just had always assumed that like, oh, she died on set and it was in Chicago and stuff, and then come to find out, you know, like just recently, like, oh no, she was like in California back at home, and she was constipated.
Crazy, wasn't it?
Oh man. But yeah, it's nuts.
It is crazy. Like thinking about that, you know, she was so young at the time, and she had that intestinal disease or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and give Poltergeist a huge, massive thumbs up. It's one of my favorite movies, horror movies for sure. It's in my top 10. I think I did a top 10 once. Or did we ever do a top 10 episode? No, we did a top 5.
Well, we did a top 4.
Oh, top 4. Okay. So it's definitely Poltergeist. I would put in my top 10. I don't know where exactly, but it's up there. It's one of those that, you know, I think it stands the test of time, and it's got that Spielberg blueprint all over the place, and great movie.
So I'm going to give it a thumbs up, but I'm going to do it with a caveat. Because as I said earlier, this falls into that whole weird 80s thing. And this is one of those movies, at least for me personally, I think this is one of those movies that you definitely need to see, and it's not a horrible movie at all, but this isn't a movie that I would ever throw into my regular viewing rotation. I mean, I don't really have one of those anymore anyway, but the only complaints that I have about Poltergeist is there are several times throughout the movie where it gets very slow and it just doesn't seem like it's moving fast enough. And maybe that was like a product of being from 1982. I don't know. I am giving it a thumbs up, but at the same time, I would say this is definitely a movie that you have to see if you've never seen it before. But I don't think this is a movie that especially if you've never seen it before and at this point, this isn't going to be a movie you're going to watch now and be like, oh man, I'm going to watch that once a year, or I'm going to watch that, once every 2 years or whatever. I don't think that's going to be a thing with this movie. But
no? Okay.
But that's my own 2 cents.
All right, that's fair enough.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. It's one of those movies that, and like you had said before, I remember seeing this movie a ton when I was a kid. But I mean, did we ever do a Gremlins episode?
We have not done a Gremlins episode.
Because unfortunately, this is one of those movies that I revisited as a grown up, and oh man, I love this movie when I was a kid, and I was kind of like, oh, I'm gonna check my phone. I think I gotta go change over laundry. Did the mail come? I'm gonna go check the mail real quick. I mean, there's points in the movie where it just kind of oh, okay, so there's hanging out, talking and stuff, and
too funny.
Right.
Oh, too funny.
But see it if you have never seen it before.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but yeah, I am a big fan of it. I think it's a great film, so highly recommend.